I mean, who's safe? You know, the guy's got nuclear weapons. We have 28,000 troops on the line, and they're right there. And so nobody's safe. We're probably not safe over here. If he gets the long-range missiles, we're not safe either. Well, I didn't say don't test him. He's going to have to do what he has to do. But he understands we're not going to be very happy.
You say not happy. What does that mean?
I would not be happy. If he does a nuclear test, I will not be happy. And I can tell you also, I don't believe that the president of China, who is a very respected man, will be happy either.
Not happy mean military action?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
President Trump conducting a host of interviews, different news organizations. Speaking there about North Korea, he did another interview with Bloomberg News in which he said something that raised more eyebrows here in Washington.
Yes, under the right circumstances, I would absolutely meet with him.
And
no problem.
And are you thinking?
Now, most political people would never say that, but I'm telling you, under the right circumstances, I would meet with him.
Him being the North Korean leader Kim Jong Un, and he later told Bloomberg, I would be honored to do it. So let's bring in our panel. We'll start there. Charles Lane, opinion writer for the Washington Post, editor-in-chief of LifeZette, Laura Ingraham, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Laura, thoughts?
Well, you can look at it this way, I guess. We've tried everything else with North Korea. I mean, we've been round and round and round. We allow them to get a little food every now and then. They need a little help from us. They say they're going to play nice. They don't. Really, supposedly, really smart people, experts, have been at this through Republican administrations and Democrat administrations. So while on the surface, you think, well, I'll meet with Kim Jong Un. Like, why would he meet with Kim Jong Un? There might be something else going on. Maybe there's a little psychological gamesmanship that Trump is engaged in, and I think that looks like some bond formed between Trump and President Xi at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, imagine the scene of seeing Kim Jong Un in Mar-a-Lago. I mean, I don't think that will probably happen, but I think he's trying to kind of be a little bit unpredictable here with him and maybe get him off his game a little bit. I don't know if it will work, but I do know this. We're at this point right now because all the smart people, all the elites in the foreign policy establishment have failed, and they failed really badly.
Here's Sean Spicer at the White House briefing being asked about that word honored.
Would that be an honor? I guess because he is still the head of state, so it is sort of there's a diplomatic piece to this. But the bottom line is the president's going to do what he has to do right now. He's building a coalition in the region to isolate North Korea, both economically and diplomatically.
Well, what do you mean when you call him one smart cookie or a pretty smart cookie?
He assumed power at a young age when his father passed away, and there was a lot of potential threats that could have come his way, and he's obviously managed to lead a country forward.
Chuck.
Well, the president has this remarkable affinity for strongmen overseas. We saw it in some of the things he said about Vladimir Putin during the campaign. As Laura mentioned, he seems to have bonded with Xi Jinping. A real surprise considering the things he said, the hostile things he said about China during the campaign. And now, so I see this remark about Kim as just being of a piece with that.
He's also invited the Philippines leader,
and I was going to get to Mr. Duterte. But what was really interesting in all of this is the extraordinary reliance he's placing on Xi to figure this problem out and to, in effect, fix it on behalf of the United States. And he's even said he's willing to sacrifice a little bit on trade to get that done. I don't have the exact quote here, but that came out in one of these interviews. That's a real change in priority for Donald Trump in terms of his policy toward Asia since the campaign he ran.
Charles.
Look, I admire any attempt to put a real deep strategic gloss on what Trump said about Un, but this is ridiculous. This is off the cuff. I hadn't thought through. There is no deep strategy here. In fact, the proof is that if this were a calculated proposition, he would never have used the word honored, which obviously is a mistake. You're not honored to meet him. You wouldn't meet him if you thought it would advance things. That's not a serious proposition. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, we had our Secretary of Defense and State saying they wouldn't, at that level, would not open negotiations with the North Koreans. The idea that we're going to have a Nixon in China on this is absurd. The president was popping off. He's got a serious policy in place, that is to squeeze the North Koreans, to threaten them. I like the way he says, I won't be happy if you do a nuclear explosion. Didn't explain it and said, but I won't be happy. Let them guess. He's pushing hard on China. I'm not sure that's going to work. But he's letting the North Koreans know that we're not going to allow an ICBM at any point, and that their pursuit of it is going to end in tears, one way or the other. That, I think, is a strong policy. What happened today with that offer to meet with them, I think, is not serious and shouldn't be taken serious.
Well, I would only say that, you know, Secretary of State Tillerson said something similar on NPR about a meeting should things change dramatically.
Well,
so it may not have been off the cuff, as you know, totally.
The choice is between thermonuclear war and meeting with Un. I mean, if that's what he's really thinking could be in the offing. Who's saying he's not doing it because he thinks it'll actually put America in a better light and a better interest? And I agree. On the surface, it seems like, why would you meet with him? But maybe there's something else going on here. I don't think we know all the pieces to this puzzle yet.
All right, let me turn to domestic issues and two quick sound bites also from that Bloomberg interview. One on a potential gas tax.
You saw what happened with surveillance, and I think that was inappropriate.
But you stand by that claim about him?
I don't stand by anything. I just, you can take it the way you want. I think our side's been proven very strongly, and everybody's talking about it. You don't have to ask me.
Why not?
Because I have my own opinions. You can have your own opinions.
But I want to know your opinions. You're the President of the United States.
It's enough. Thank you.
Okay, that was not the gas tax. That was on surveillance with CBS's John Dickerson. The gas tax says he's open to it. Let's see if we have the big banks. We also talked about possibly breaking up big banks.
We are looking at that. There are, some people that want to go back to the old system, right? So we're going to look at that. We're looking at it right now, as we speak. And Dodd-Frank is going to be very, very seriously changed, so the banks can go back to loaning money.
So I asked Britt this earlier. When a candidate says what they're considering, it's one thing. When the president says they're considering, it's a totally different deal.
Well, the Glass-Steagall thing, they keep calling 21st century Glass-Steagall, which, as I've followed this issue, kind of means whatever you want it to mean. It means a new banking regulation scheme, and they're just going to call it 21st century Glass-Steagall. It won't necessarily separate investment and commercial banks as rigidly as the old one did. So put that one to one side. They have been cogitating about that, and there's a lot of divisions in the White House. The gas tax, if I may talk about it, is a really interesting proposal. I think it's a good idea, and as he pointed out, the money would be, he said, if it were dedicated to highways. Well, the way the system works, it automatically gets dedicated to highways because the gas tax is what feeds the National Highway Trust Fund. One of the reasons we're having to scramble for all this infrastructure money at the federal level is that this gas tax has not been raised since 1993, almost a quarter century. I'm sure I'm just like everybody else out there. I hate to pay it, but the truth is that's where we get our money for highways, and it's long overdue to be increased.
I know you're a gas tax proponent.
For 35 years.
For 35 years.
Voice in the wilderness, and now I hear an echo. It's from the president. I think it's terrific. Now, I don't think it's going to go anywhere because there's so much resistance in the Congress, but it's exactly what we need. The French foreign minister said 30 years ago, when talking about the budget deficits and the debt of the United States, said, what a country where you could solve its problems with a 50-cent gas tax. This has been sitting out there forever.
And for the people who say that this is regressive and hits the poor more?
There is regressive. I've advocated for years now that you do two things at once. You have a huge gas tax, $1 a gallon, and you immediately refund it by lowering the rate of the FICA tax, of the Social Security tax. So it works out to a $14 a week extra expense on gas, and you get it back by a lowering of your withholding. So nobody is held hostage. Nobody has to spend the money on it. Everybody is made whole. And all it does is it alters your incentives. Gas is more expensive. Employment is less expensive. You get more employment, less consumption. And the time to do it is when you're at historically low levels. Now, if you want
on energy prices, you mean?
On energy prices. We're never going to get this again. You do it now, it'll be less noticed. If you want to use a part of it to build the infrastructure, fine. But it's just lying out there, a source of revenue. Every other country, the Europeans have like $6 a gallon or something, huge gas taxes. We have essentially nothing. and it's out there. It's ready to be used.
I'm not for emulating Europe in almost any capacity, but I mean, I think that Charles is making some good points here. We have to get the revenue somewhere. And it's surprising to a lot of people when you hear Trump talking about we're going to tax. You're conservative, you don't want any taxes. But you do have to pay for it. We have $19 trillion in debt. And I think they have to look at this very carefully, and I think they have to explain it to people, because it is going to hurt the working people. For his populist message, that's going to hurt those people, but they have to explain. If they're going to do something like that, which I'm not even sure I'm in favor of, they're going to have to really explain it to the people.
Well, if you're not going to touch entitlements,
right, got to
get
it somewhere.
Have to find the money somewhere.
Yep.